Hi, and welcome to episode 8 of A Journey Back to You. This episode is my favorite in the whole series. Not the most complicated, not even the most emotional, though it might move something in you. It's my favorite because this is where things started to feel alive again for me. If you are somewhere in the middle of a big life shift right now, your body changing, your sense of self feeling uncertain, the old version of you loosening and a new one not quite clear yet, I think this one might do something for you too. Today I want to talk about creativity. Not as a talent, not as a gift you either have or don't, not as something that belongs to painters and musicians and people who've always been the artistic one in the room. I want to talk about creativity as something much more ordinary and much more necessary, as a way of staying connected to yourself when life is pulling you in every direction, as a steady force that keeps reminding you, I am still here, I am still becoming something. I think we need to let go of the word itself for a moment, because for a lot of us, creativity carries baggage. It makes us think of talented people, art school people, people who produce something beautiful seemingly without effort. And if that's not us, quietly we decide creativity isn't really our thing. But that's not what creativity is. Creativity is curiosity in action. It's the moment you wonder, what if I tried this differently? What if I made something instead of bought something? What if I cooked with that ingredient I've never used before? What if I wrote down what I'm thinking just to see what's in there? Creativity is any act where you bring something into being that didn't exist before. It can happen in a kitchen, garden, journal, conversation, or a business. It doesn't require a studio. It doesn't require an audience or anyone's approval. It just requires you to show up and try something, to be willing to make something, however imperfect, that is genuinely yours. A few years ago, I developed quite severe pigmentation on my face. If you've experienced this, you know it's not just a cosmetic thing. It affects how you feel, looking in the mirror, how you walk into a room. I tried everything the mainstream skincare world had to offer. Nothing worked. It actually got worse. So I started reading, researching natural ingredients, their properties, their history, the way they interact with each other. I became genuinely curious in a slow, sit down with a cup of tea kind of way. I made my own formulation in my kitchen. No lab, no professional training. What I had was curiosity, stubbornness, and a kitchen counter covered in small containers. And guess what? It worked. When I started sharing it with friends and family and hearing what they experienced, something shifted. Then I thought, maybe this isn't just mine to keep. That's how HPO was born, not from a business plan, from pure creativity, from a problem I refused to simply accept, from the willingness to try something without knowing how it would turn out. Creativity doesn't wait for the right moment. It turns up in the middle of a problem you're trying to solve, a question you can't stop asking, and if you're willing to follow it, it can take you somewhere completely unexpected. When a particular season of life arrived for me, my body changing, my old sense of self loosening, I realized I needed something specific. I needed to make things, not to produce anything impressive, just to make things. to feel the particular aliveness that comes from having your hands on something, shaping it slowly, and getting lost in a weird healing you don't even realize is happening. I made sourdough. The first few loaves were honestly not great, but they were mine. And there was something in the process, the watching, the waiting, the patience, and the hoping, that fed something in me that productivity never has and never will. I tried playing paddle, a sport I've never played before. I was average at best, but the laughter that came from that, the lightness of just trying something without needing to be good at it, that was its own kind of medicine. Because here's what I've noticed. The moment we allow ourselves to be beginners again, something loosens. There is a freedom in not being the expert, but in just knowing that you can show up and try. Think of a child learning to draw. They don't look at the page and think, is that good enough? They just draw. A house with a lopsided roof, a sun with too many rays, and they are completely absorbed, completely present, and alive in it. That's not a childish thing. That is the natural human relationship with making. Before we were even taught to be afraid of being judged. Creativity asks us to go back, not to produce a result, not to impress anyone, just to feel what it's like to be absorbed, curious, present, but mostly alive. Making something, anything with your hands or your mind or your voice, produces a feeling that very little else replicates. Psychologists call it flow, that state of deep engagement where time softens and self-consciousness dissolves, where you're so inside what you're doing that the rest of the noise falls away. And here's what I love about this. It has nothing to do with talent. It's available every single time you make something, regardless of what it looks like at the end. The outcome is not the point. The state of making is the point. Think about the last time you were completely absorbed in something. That might have been cooking, gardening, writing something down, arranging flowers, fixing something with your hands. That was flow. That was your nervous system doing something it doesn't get to do nearly enough, resting inside a complete, focused presence. We underestimate how much we need that, especially in seasons of change. The act of making something gives you back a sense of agency, a sense of, I did this. This exists because I made it. And that's not a small thing. We live in a world that is very good at turning us into consumers of content, other people's ideas, other people's creativity. There's nothing wrong with that. Inspiration is real. But if consuming is all we do, something starts to fade. Your own voice starts to fade. When you create, you shift from consuming life to participating in it. You become active in your own story. And what you make, however small, imperfect, or private, it doesn't exist before you bring it into life. Because when you create, you discover things. You discover what you're drawn to, what you find beautiful, what makes you feel most like yourself. Every small choice is a creative act, honest information about who you really are. Creativity is a form of self-knowledge. And in the seasons when our self-knowledge feels shaky, when we're not quite sure who we are anymore, that kind of knowing becomes incredibly important. In the seasons when we feel like we're shrinking, when change is happening to us rather than through us, creativity becomes a form of resistance. Because every time you sit down and make something, you were saying, I'm not done. I'm still curious. I still have something to bring into being. We are all makers by nature. Long before we were consumers, we were makers. Making things is one of the oldest human activities there is. It's not a luxury, it's part of what it means to be alive and human and here. When we cut it off, when we tell ourselves we're not creative, not talented, too old to start something new, we lose something we can't quite name, a vitality, a sense of forward motion. But creativity brings that back. This week, choose one small creative act, just one. It doesn't have to be impressive or purposeful or shareable. Cook something you've never made before. Write a few sentences no one will read. Plant something. Make something with your hands. Then pay attention to how it feels. Not the result, the feeling of being in it, that particular aliveness, the way time softens when you're absorbed in something. That's what we're after, not as a project or a goal, just as a regular practice of being in your own life, for no reason other than the fact that it makes you feel like yourself. That's enough. That's more than enough. Next week, we explore something I think is one of the most underrated acts of self-trust, trusting your own timing. Not rushing, not comparing, just deeply, fully trusting where you are. I'll see you then. Take good care of yourself this week.